Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Boston College, I'd like to thank everyone for watching one more live broadcast of our Jornadas Boston College. And I would like to thank Analia and her team for all the effort they've made to put this together. So over to you, Annie.
Thanks, Ivana. Ivana is the school principal, and on behalf of the Foreign Languages Department, I'd like to thank her and all of the Boston College team for the support during these afternoon live sessions. Martina, welcome again, and thanks for accepting our invitation. We're also grateful to Anybody Argentina, the NGO that has sent material to share in this session. And finally, special thanks to today's host teachers, Marina Fernandez Crespo, Camila Lifshitz, Cecilia Zúcar, Teresa Torre. So Marina, Camila, Cecilia, Teresa, the floor is yours.
Hey. Thank you, Anna.
Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking with Martina. She was talking earlier. She's living in the United States in the Washington, D.C. area, and she's been working with body activism for quite some time, right? So Martina, do you want to tell us about yourself, what you've been doing, what you're promoting, and what you'll be talking about today?
Absolutely. So my name is Martina Maya Callan. As she stated, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, specifically Laurel, Maryland. I have been passionate about these topics and body activism for numerous years, for over 7 years, and have been really devoted to promoting body acceptance, self-love, and working towards the eradication of eating disorders. And so what that looks like is promoting bodies throughout society and basically navigating what it looks like to be beautiful today in the world.
We've discussed the idea of beauty and the definition of it and how this impacts on how the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder is a really common phrase to hear. But could you tell us about what beautiful is and how you define it and what the definition of beautiful is for yourself?
Absolutely. So I am going to be sharing my screen, and if there's any reason that it's not working, just let me know. So what is beauty, and what is beauty around the world? So in so many different places throughout the world, there's so many different definitions. But if we're going to go back to a book of what the definitions by these dictionaries, beauty is a few different things. So by the Cambridge Dictionary, it states that the quality of being pleasing, especially to look at, or someone or something that gives great pleasure, especially when you look at it. The business of making people look attractive and using makeup and treatments. And another definition of beauty by the Oxford Dictionary is a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight. And so when we look at beauty in these terms, it is in one way objectifies the thing that you're looking at and what you're seeing as beauty. And so to me, I have been working for years to personally redefine my idea of beauty to be more encompassing of the individual themselves or the activity or anything like that. And so to me, even though these are the actual dictionary definitions, they aren't all encompassing of what beauty actually is, because it doesn't talk about that time where you see your best friend smile or laugh, or when you yourself are smiling and laughing. And I think that at some times those are the most beautiful moments of life, but these definitions don't fully display those different components. So in the media, it is often shown that this is what beauty is. And so we take these definitions of being pleasing to look at, or attractive, or makeup and treatments and all of these different things. And then this is what we are shown is what beauty looks at. And so in so many different things, this talks about changing our weight as diet, sugar-free, beauty, fat, beat. And it's all these things about people losing weight, or it'll be criticizing people or who wore it best. And in these magazines, my electricity just flicked, so hopefully it doesn't go out. But in these magazines, you know, men as well have this same kind of pressure to look a certain way, because that is what we are told is beautiful. And this is not just in magazines these days. This is also your best friend on Instagram, or that influencer that you follow on Instagram. Like, there are so many different forms of this, and so it can be extremely difficult when your culture is pushing all these ideas of you, or of ideas of what you and society should look like.
Mhm.
And where does this start? And so we think about society, and we think about society, and we think about how when you're younger, you pick up these magazines, or maybe you're watching that television show and there's no diversity of bodies within it. And so when you think back even further, though, when you pull back those layers of what is actually happening, it will be Barbies, or it'll be other toy figures that maybe you utilized as a child. But a standard unrealistic beauty example is Barbie, because Barbie is this beautiful young lady who has perfect hair and the perfect body as defined by society, and has the perfect partner, Ken. And it's almost like this is what we are meant to strive for. When you look at male action figures, very often they don't come with a female counterpart. But when you look at this female idealized beauty, it does come with a male counterpart. And it's interesting how that can even shift as far as genders are concerned with the idea of beauty, and how in some ways it's almost depicting that women need men to have that complete idealized beauty and happiness. When we're looking even further into Barbie and actually looking at the measurements, you'll see that this body isn't even possible. So this body on the left is basically what they did is they took the proportions of a Barbie and they brought it to life form. So if Barbie was an actual person, she would look like this doll, or look like this image on the left of the blonde woman with short hair. However, this is also an example from the United States, but the woman on the right is actually approximately the average size of a body in the United States. So one, this doesn't define all bodies at all, but it just is to demonstrate the comparison of what this Barbie would look like brought to life size versus an actual individual from the United States. So when we're looking at this Barbie, we can see the vast difference, the striking difference between Barbie and the average size of somebody from the United States. So her head, so Barbie's head is 22 inches, whereas the US citizen is 20. Neck is 9 inches, the average US citizen is 15. The bust is 32 versus the average US citizen, which is 35. The biceps are 7 on Barbie versus 13 for the average US citizen woman. The forearms are 6. US is 11, wrist is 3.5 inches. So if Barbie was to be blown up, her wrist would be 3.5 inches 3.5 inches, whereas the average US citizen, that is a woman, is 6.5. And so that in of itself, a wrist is typically just bone structure. And so even just the bone structure on Barbie wouldn't be equal to that of the average US woman in the United States. Like even just the bone structure. Then going to the waist, which is 16 versus 35. So Barbie's waist is less than double the average size of a US woman. And so when you're looking at her proportions and you're recognizing that her wrist, the bone structure of her wrist is so much dramatically smaller, but then the bone structure of her waist is also so much dramatically smaller in comparison. It's just alarming to think about how disproportionate other components of her body can be. Her hips are 29 versus the US average woman is 40. Her thighs are 16, Barbie's, and then the US average is 25. The calf is 11, the US average is 16, and the ankle is 6, the US average is 9. So when you're looking at all these numbers, you start to see that the only thing bigger on Barbie than the average US woman is her head. The only thing bigger is her head. And so that means that when you're looking at her body, it just makes it so that her physical body looks smaller in comparison. It creates an even more dramatic look. So if we go back to even just the icon of Barbie. So right here on the right, you should see the image of Barbie's like face. And you'll see that here, the disproportion between her neck and her head. And just like the other image, it shows that her neck would not have the capacity to hold up her head. She would not have the ability or the strength to do it. And also her hair. So if you put your hair in a tie, you can wrap your fingers around it. At least for me, I can wrap my fingers around it almost like this. But for this Barbie, the size of her neck is smaller than her hair tie for her ponytail. And so how can we like look at these images and think of them as such beautiful depictions? However, we realize that it's so unrealistic. And even if you look at her eyelashes are further than her nose. Like nobody, I personally at least don't know anybody whose eyelashes are further than their nose. Like
so bizarre. Oh my God.
Yes.
Am I the only one who held her hair in her wrist, like just to try it out?
It just wouldn't be possible. You would be in constant pain always. And when you originally look at this image, it's just Barbie. You're like, yep, that's like the iconic Barbie that I know. But then when you just start to analyze it a little bit further and start to maybe think about it through a critical lens, it starts to make you reevaluate not only just Barbie herself, but also all the other imagery that we constantly receive on a daily basis that we associate with the idea of beauty. And so one thing that is really great that is currently happening in society is trying to push back on these norms and trying to push back on this idea that so much within our society is cultivated through this lens. Like these images haven't really been having pushback until recent years, at least vocally. And so now, luckily, there is Barbies that are more reflective of bodies that you would actually see. So another component of Barbie that was not represented was here. So this is on the image on the left. The first doll is the typical Barbie that doesn't have a neck that could hold up her head, whose head is disproportionately large, whose waist is more than double smaller, like smaller than the average US woman's, and also whose wrists are 3.5 inches. And so you see, and also she's extremely tall in comparison to the average US woman. And so here on the right next to her, that is what a doll would look like that is proportionate to the average size of the US woman. So they basically took these proportions, and so these are the proportions of what Barbie would look like blown up. Then this is the proportions of what a US citizen would look like if they were brought down to that infrastructure of a Barbie. And so it really is trying to work out, you know, those differences of bodies and appearances, and trying to make it so that you see something that is more relative to people around you. Another thing that I absolutely love is that they now have Barbies with stretch marks. And so here, this Barbie with the red top on, she has stretch marks on her stomach. And that is such a normal component of growth and of life, is our bodies shifting and changing. And so the capacity to normalize stretch marks is so necessary, because oftentimes it will feel like, when you first get stretch marks, especially, that there might be something wrong, or nobody really talks about these changes of your bodies as far as stretch marks. But these are normal components of your body that have nothing wrong with them at all. And so finally, in these toys in this Barbie, they are reshifting the paradigm and trying to create acceptance around what stretch marks looks like. In the image on the top right, you will also see a Barbie with acne on it. And so I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly, but she has acne on her forehead. And this is another natural component of bodies shifting and changing, especially through like adolescence or through teenage years. And this is something that you would have never seen on the original Barbie. The idea of things that are natural to our human life experience, but are often neglected or often hidden in the shadows, which makes it so that sometimes people don't recognize them as normal parts of their body, and maybe will correlate them with shame or feel uncomfortable because they have these normal components. On the bottom right, you'll also see a Black woman with natural hair. And that is another component that was sadly not depicted in our original definitions of beauty, and recognizing that beauty does not come in a size or a color. Beauty is everyone around us. And there's so many more layers, and there's so many more conversations that have to happen. But it's really great that we're starting to see these shifts and changes. One thing that is essential, though, is to recognize that these are special. Like, these toys that have stretch marks, that have acne, that have diversity, that are actually proportionate to body sizes, these are the special Barbies. Like, the original Barbie is still that classic Barbie that will fill most of the shelf. And then maybe in the corner, they'll have a few Barbies that are different. And they also have Barbies that are now Supreme Court justices and lawyers and doctors. And all these things are still wonderful, but it's also still not the norm. Like, these are still considered those special Barbies. And so the projects, the work, and the activism around these topics will not be done until these types of figures are normalized instead of the special.
What I was thinking is that we are not used to seeing this type of Barbies, actually. I don't even know if here in Argentina we have them. Maybe in the United States it's more common and it's becoming like an object that you can see in the toy store, for example. But here we don't, I mean, this is the first time for me that I'm watching this stretch marks or the acne, which is so normal and so basic for a teenager to have, or like a woman developing her body. But I've never seen this until now. I don't know what you think.
No, and that's what's so alarming, is that in so many places, it's not normal. And it's one of those things that you have to actively go search and find, even here in the US. Like, I would need to go on a personal mission to see what store in my area might have a Barbie that has diversity in it. And so, like we were talking about yesterday, is that what these shifts look like, there is such a length that we still need to go. Like, this conversation won't be done until it is normalized that all these Barbies look like this in the closest toy shop, at all of them. Like, not just one toy shop that's like, I'm going to be progressive in my relationship with body activism. It needs to be in every shop around, and there needs to be more diversity of bodies, and there needs to be more diversity of these individuals. And so I think that it's a very new conversation, but it's really exciting that we're still promoting these topics. And for any of the other teachers and professors on this call, have you seen images like this before?
No,
No, not at all.
never. At least not here, but no, I have never seen that. And I was thinking that maybe this idea of diversity when it comes to Barbies, I would say that the company has to change everything about their view on what a doll should be, right? Because so far what they have been doing is, well, basically they have been trying to impose one model. And so all girls, or everyone playing with those toys, had to identify with that. And now they have to change everything, all their policies. So it's a very interesting discussion, and I hope that these dolls and stuff also comes here, so that we can also hold the same debate here.
Yeah, I was remembering, I don't know if you see it, Martina, there was like a study that they made. There are some videos on YouTube where they show two dolls to kids, and they have to choose which one. They ask them which one is the good doll and which one's the bad one, and one is white and the other one is black or brown. And well, of course, it is interesting to see the reactions of the kids, because most of the kids, they are asking these questions, belong to countries where brown or black is the average color of their skin. But also they said at the end of the video that they couldn't find actually a brown doll or a black doll. They paint them because they couldn't even bought a black or brown doll to do the experiment. So yeah, it's very hard to find this kind of dolls that you're showing here.
No, and I think that, you know, especially with what you just said, as far as having to get a doll and paint it to be reflective of you and your family, like of a person and their family, it's just like, what what is happening in society that we have such strong ideals of what beauty might look like that we can't even find, or people can't even find themselves in that definition or in society. And so, working towards making it more of a reflection is so essential for inclusion and for individuals to recognize that they are beautiful.
There is an interesting question that someone's asking that says, who and how defines beauty standards?
Yes, so that is so difficult, because when we look back even at the beginning of this presentation, there's like the Oxford and Cambridge definitions. But then when you're looking at maybe high fashion, or you're looking at Instagram, or you're looking at all these different things, we subjectively make our own definitions of what we think is beautiful. But the problem is that it's usually heavily influenced by our culture. And so even the culture here in the United States is different than that of Argentina, which is different than that of Nigeria, which is different. But in every single context, there's not diversity. So in every single context, there's always that idealized beauty. And I think that personally, it's almost like an underlying written rule that we've seen throughout times in numerous different parts of the world. And so I personally don't know who gets to specifically define these things and promote them, but I know that it isn't a person, it's the whole society. And so it's much larger to fight back on or to combat on, because it has so many, if it were a tree, it would have so many roots in so many different directions. We wouldn't even be we can't see it all because it's underground. And so it's really having these conversations, and you as even a classroom, or you as students at the schools and all these different things, you have the ability to create that shift of your culture and of your environment, and even just where you go to school. And so I think that's important to recognize that us individually have the power to redefine beauty. And I think that that's really the best thing that I can state right now, because if I knew who exactly made these decisions, I would definitely be having a very strong conversation with them.
Yeah, and as a follow-up question to this one, what you have just said is how would you redefine the concept of beauty?
Yes, and so what I'm very excited about is that this will actually be a component of an activity that we'll be doing later. But what's so important, at least for my journey in redefining what beauty is thinking of it not in the Oxford and Cambridge definitions of what is aesthetically pleasing and what forms and shapes, thinking about beauty as your best friend smiling and you smiling, and making beauty as far as someone making you food that they love, and thinking of beauty in a different way that isn't objectifying. Beauty is such a full encompassing thing that it is when somebody's radiating, talking about something that they love, not about if their eyebrows look perfect, which can be also really nice, but it's not. We have to make those shifts within ourselves in what you think is beautiful, watching the water, watching the sun glisten on water. That doesn't necessarily get it defined in the last definition. So I think that if you redefine beauty as something that maybe makes you happy, or just thinking about different little parts of your body that make you happy. I know for me, a huge component was thinking about my hands. I don't think that, or originally didn't think that hands were beautiful. They're just hands. But then I thought about all the amazing things that hands do, Like hands let me drink coffee. Hands let me get on Zoom. Hands let me text my best friends. They let me sculpt. They let me drive. They let me dance. They let me do thumbs up. Like thinking about all the parts of your body as things and the things that they let you do and seeing that as being beautiful. And then that for me is what really helped me redefine what beauty is to me.
Nice.
All right, thanks.
So next is we're going to continue talking about, you know, this, how society makes beauty, like society forms beauty in lots of different ways. So there is this definition of Frankensteining, and the definition means to put parts together. However, in context as far as the beauty industry, it goes much further than that. So here's a definition, a visual definition of what the term Frankensteining means, as far as taking maybe an image and re-navigating it, photoshopping it to a point of no return. So I'm going to just play this one more time and I'll be talking over the video. But so this definition of Frankensteining is taking something and putting it together. So here we're taking a pizza slice and we're making it into a woman. And this is a woman whose body you might see on a cover of a magazine. Like they nitpick every component of her body in this Photoshop to make it so that she is somebody who maybe you would see on a billboard as what culture or society might make of, you know, the best idea of beauty. But what's scary is that she comes from a pizza slice. But when you would look at, if I were to see this woman on a magazine, maybe, you know, you would potentially compare yourself to her and her body and the proportions that she has. But then when you look at this comparison, you start to really question all of the environment that you are around and all that you're getting fed. So if you're just seeing this image on the right, often you would think that that's an actual person. And so also another idea of Frankensteining is taking numerous different people and photoshopping them so the best parts come from different people. So maybe you would have the arms from one person and the face from another person and the hair from another person and the stomach from another person and the legs from another person. And it really, you know, this is one of the best examples to give though, is because it came from a pizza slice and then the individual was inserting different arms that were almost getting formulated on top of it. And so it can be very alarming to think about the images and media that we absorb when these kinds of images, you know, pop up in society that come from pizza slices.
Also, besides putting together parts from other people, sometimes they put different pictures of the same person together to highlight different parts. Like there was the cover of Vanity Fair. I don't know if you remember, but where Reese Witherspoon ended up having 3 legs, and Oprah Winfrey ended up having 3 hands, because they like use different poses of Reese Witherspoon to make her whole body so she can look like a certain way, right? And she ended up having 3 legs and 1 arm around her, but actually next to her, Oprah has her both of her hands in her lap. So it got viral because it was so funny, and it's a very important magazine.
Exactly. And so these, like you just said, like these important magazines making these dramatic differences. And it's not just, like you said, numerous different people. It can be the same person.
Yeah, but the idea that someone can be is rich and famous because they are perfect. Like they take the perfect picture each time they took a picture, and they have the perfect pose and the perfect legs and the perfect light. So it's like they're always telling you that to be that rich and famous or happy, because apparently that means that you're happy, you have to be like, you have to have the perfect body and the perfect skin, and also be blonde and with blue eyes, right?
Yes. And so it's going back to almost the Barbie and Ken. It's like, oh, this is perfect. This is what it should look like. And look how happy these people are. And if only you could look like that, or only you could be like that, then you'd be happy too. But those people don't even look like those people. And so how are we supposed to get there? And so it's really just critically thinking, okay, well, if they can do this to a pizza slice, then what else can they do? Like, what else can they do to a person that's, is already there? And then it really goes to talking about how there are these incredibly famous people like Oprah who will have these mishaps. But then it's also thinking about your own Instagram and your friend's Instagram, and how, on a more individual level, maybe there's, somebody that you're not best friends with, but you see them on the internet, and it seems like they have the perfect life. And this can be someone, very close to you that is just maybe not in your friend group, or this can be a celebrity. What people depict on social media is often highlights. And even with Instagram filters, there's so many that it already distorts the image slightly. And so even when you're looking at images of your friends or people that you might have on social media, it's important to critically analyze and not compare. That is the biggest underlying component of all of this, is to not compare your body or your friend's body or your family's body to anyone or anybody, whether it be digitally or in a magazine or even another physical person. And that can be hard, because when you're, it's almost somewhat easier to, discredit an image that you see on the internet or in a magazine because it's been photoshopped. But you also need to, it's also necessary to navigate not comparing your body at all to even the physical bodies around you. I know that for me has been extremely challenging, and bodies change and shift in so many different ways, and you never know what somebody else is going through with their body. And so, working through that lens of trying to not compare is so important. Here's something that has gone on, and I don't know if anybody has seen this, but right in this upper right corner was the original advertisement. So we just saw that Photoshop of the pizza, and we're looking here now of the "Are you beach body ready?" And so this was an advertisement, and it actually ended up going viral, because this is stating that you should really only be going to the beach if you have this woman's body. And as we've stated, it's a thin body individual with blonde hair who's posing and has also been heavily photoshopped. And so there was a huge like backlash, and people started making all kinds of advertisements that were basically stating, no, like everybody is beach body ready. And so here on the left and all around, so the first advertisement is in the top right. And then these are all the other advertisements that came to combat this idea. So yes, we are beach body ready, 100% beach body ready. And everybody is ready, what that means to you. And so that means you too. And so it's really starting to think about how society is starting to push back on this idealized vision of beauty. And so it's great because maybe even 10 years ago or however many years ago, people would just receive this advertisement. People would just receive it and be maybe comparing themselves and thinking that they aren't beach body ready because their bodies don't look like this. But now we finally have the strength of society to state, no, like this is not right. Like you cannot be making these types of advertisements because you really are damaging people's thoughts and minds and honestly their relationships with their own bodies. When you go to the beach, you're not going to, when I go to the beach, I'm not going to think about my body being in this specific way or to lay on a towel in a specific way. I'm going because I want to have my feet in the sand, because I want to go into the water, because I want to be with friends. And so recognizing it as going to the beach is an activity, and whatever body you bring to the beach is great because you're there, and to not be self-critical of what your body looks like in physical spaces, and also in this case on a beach. And so, with this, it's also great to see as far as how Barbies are changing and also how society is combating these advertisements and ideas of beauty that can be extremely harsh. So so my name again is Martina, and I am an artist and activist. So as I stated, I've been doing this for over 7+ years, and this is an art piece that I created. So here is myself in a nude bodysuit. So I'm basically wearing a bathing suit that is nude color, and I allowed people to write on my body. So first I wrote on my body, this was a performance art sculpture. And then what is next to me in the bottom right image is actually a installation sculpture that I created, which the inside depicts what it is like to have an eating disorder. And the outside is basically people writing their messages of self-love and body acceptance. And so here you'll see like the word is fat written on me, and the word ugly, and then lots of different words that were basically about my reflection of myself and my self-worth. And then I invited the public to write on me. And it was an incredibly empowering and vulnerable experience. And I do live in the United States, and this did occur in Maryland during the month of early March. And so here in Maryland during early March, it is still winter. So while I was doing this performance art piece, it started to snow. And so that means it's very, very, very cold. So I was out here during the National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, combating these ideas of society's idealized beauty standards and starting to try to redefine and shift people's minds of what that looks like. And so this is the performance and sculpture project that I did, and it ended up going viral. And so then I was talking about body acceptance and self-love and combating, working towards the eradication of eating disorders through awareness by talking on an international platform about these topics. And so for me, these all are in English, but I even had articles that were in Finnish, and that is not a language that I know. And so it was really amazing that I was able to create a movement of people starting to critically think about their bodies in a different way. And that is a huge component of why I'm so compassionate about this. So, you know, compassionate to my body and passionate about spreading this to others, as far as education in a community setting, and legislative policy as far as research, and working towards programs maybe like this or conversations like this happenings in schools, and on so many different levels, and expanding mental health care, and health in general. And so I'm extremely passionate about this and have been working on this for a long time. And I'm so happy that during this time I've been working on it, I've seen these shifts, but I am absolutely ready to see more radical shifts take place. I am going to show you a quick video about a event that I actually hosted regarding bodies and bodies acceptance. I can't see. Yeah. Okay. Screen share. Let's see.
While we are looking for the video, oh, good, excellent, just put it up.
Oh, okay, here we go. No. Oh, for my screen, I don't know if you can see it, but on my screen, it won't let me. Okay, here we go. So here is a video. So this was actually an event that I hosted in Argentina. So I did live in Argentina for about 8-9 months last year, from March to late November. And I, for one, absolutely love your country, but I actually was living in Buenos Aires. And so I'm so lucky to have gotten to know your amazing, amazing, amazing city. And this was an event that I hosted while I was there. And it sort of depicts my platform regarding bodies and bodies acceptance, and our ways that we can practice those models.
Our beauty is within ourselves. It's not our outside appearance. My body is not a representation of who I am. Like, I am who I am, and this is the body that I get to be who I am. And so I just within the last 3 years have completely changed into a different person in recognizing that this body is the vessel that lets me be who I am. My name is Martina. I am the creator of Love Your Vessel and Beautiful Bash. This is an international movement for people to learn to love and accept their bodies. It is my goal and my mission to make sure that people are kind to themselves and recognize that they are a force in which to be reckoned with.
Music again.
So, you know, this just gives just a little bit of a glimpse of my passion and dedication to this. I actually wanted to specifically go to Argentina to have these conversations, and I was lucky enough to have actually gone to speak to over 2,000 students regarding these topics. And just being here today, I feel so incredibly privileged. Thank you all for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. And so the last component that I wanted to end with all of you, as far as with my component is the activity. And what this activity is like we stated, to start to shift our reflection of what beauty is. And so here you should see is the activity that you all will be doing in a little bit. And so I want you to write down all the things that you love about your best friend, why you love them, how they make you smile, everything. You know, it's just sometimes thinking about, you know, recognizing those things as beautiful, thinking about how the way that your best friend does these things is beautiful. And then after you write down all that you love about your best friend, starting to think about what your best friend loves about you. Why are you a good friend? Why are you the person that they go to when they need to talk about different things? And write down all of those reasons why, you know, you believe that your best friend loves you and finds beauty in you. And these are characteristics. So if you want, you can write like, oh, my hair, or things like that. But we're really trying to dive deeper and think about things like, you know, that you make really great jokes, or that you sing together, things like that. And afterwards is the next step is writing a letter to your body. And so this is completely different from thinking about what you love in your best friend and what they love about you, and thinking about what you love about yourself. And that will start to give you a framework to work with. And so thank you so much. That is the components that I have at this time. And I have really loved being here.
It's amazing. We have a lot of questions actually that students are asking. I think that this final activity, guys, for those who are in YouTube, is very difficult to communicate through. Like, I find it difficult not seeing the questions asked and giving out an activity to do afterwards. But we've been doing the exit ticket activity as a finalizing thing for each talk. Then we will post again the 3 things Martina has just shared for you to do as a final activity. That is just a comment. Shall we go through some questions that they've been asking? What do you think, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
let's go. I have one. It says, what do you think people care so much about appearance?
I think that people care so much about appearance because we're conditioned to. We're told by society that we should care about our appearance. Even just like we stated, through the toys that we're given, through the television, through magazines, you know, it is often an underlying conversation that is often having, especially, you know, through adolescence and through teenage years. And so I think it's truly a reflection of society and why we have those kinds of thoughts and feelings.
Martina, I have another question here. And it says, what do you think about famous people who comply with all the pre-established beauty standards, but at the same time repudiate them on social media?
So as far as they themselves are that there are like the perspective that beauty, and then them like working against it. Is that the question?
I think
Exactly.
so.
So I full-heartedly love anybody who works against the idealized beauty standard. And I think that if someone is a thin-bodied, blue-eyed, blonde person, I'm not going to discredit them because that is maybe naturally how their body is. But I think that individuals who maybe hold that space need to give the space to activists and to diverse bodies. Like, they can't just be there sending videos on themselves being like, oh yeah, body diversity, and then not giving other people the platform to talk about it. So I love people who do it. But I also have seen that sometimes people say that they're for body diversity, and then they are also promoting diet pills. To me, that is not possible. You cannot be selling diet pills and making money off of telling people they should change their bodies, and at the same time pretending that you think that everybody is beautiful in their bodies. It's not possible. So
You're just a hypocrite, let's say.
And so I think making sure that you are critically analyzing the information that you're receiving, and anybody who is selling diet pills, I am full-heartedly against.
All right.
So don't do that. Unless it's like protein powder or something like this. Like there's just a difference as far as like telling people they need to change their bodies and change their weight. Because that you can't say that and say that you're body positive or body acceptant.
Thank you.
Okay, Martina, here we have another question about fashion industry. And maybe, do you think that fashion designers should reconsider who they hire for their campaigns, for their shows?
Yes, I do. I strongly do. I think that what is great is also with Anybody Argentina is like working towards those fashion shifts, which is so essential. Like that is so essential. I know that for me, while I was living in Argentina, I truly did feel very displaced as far as my capacity to find clothing that fit my body. I felt very self-conscious regarding clothing and clothing purchases while I was there. So I'm so happy that right when I was leaving in November, you know, that was starting to get shifted, which made me so happy. But that even in the United States in fashion shows, but I'm happy that people are starting to call out those fashion shows that don't have diversity in them and even boycott them. So I think that is very important to make the shifts.
Nice. I have a very interesting question here. Just let me find it because I lost it. Do you think, this is kind of a tricky question, I don't know. Do you think that the body positive discourse or other feminist mottos, do you want to grab that one?
No, but I was thinking how controversial that is. I mean,
I know, but yeah, it's kind of.
No, it's a very interesting question anyway. Yeah.
I'm eager to hear it.
Yeah. Do you think that the body positive discourse or other feminist mottos end up being like another social mandate for women to follow up?
So I personally think that there's so many different waves of feminism. And so in the fourth wave of feminism, the idea of feminism is that women get to do what they want. So, you know, that means that if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you can be a feminist and a stay-at-home mom because you're doing what you want. You're staying home with your family and doing what you love. You can be a feminist and not get married, not have children, and have a full-blown amazing career. You can do that and be a feminist because you're doing what you want. And so I think that as far as body positivity, so body positivity is a little bit different than body acceptance. And because body positivity is a social movement to include diverse bodies in the idea of beauty. So to be body positive is to want to include bodies that are often marginalized in the conversation. Whereas body acceptance, I think, is more of a universal term because an individual can be a fit bodied or to be a specific physique, but it's the idea that they know that it's not their obligation to society to follow those things. As far as what I was saying earlier, if making your eyebrows look perfect is your idea of happiness and beauty, that's great, but it's just that you not feeling mandated by society to do those things. So I know that it's definitely a gray area, but to me, it's all about doing what you want and what is safe for you as far as your own individual health. If you're striving too much for these unrealistic beauty standards, what's scary is that eating disorder can develop. And so I think that what's important is, thinking of health and what you want and practicing that.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Do we have any other questions that you'd like to ask?
I read one about something we didn't talk about. Do you think body hair should be also normalized?
Yes, I do. I think that that is a human component and a human component of our lives. And there's no reason that like typically men don't get shamed for having body hair, whereas women do. And I think that that, you know, just goes back to our last question, is that if somebody wants to shave, all the power to them. If somebody doesn't, all the power to them. And right now in society, especially women who don't shave, sometimes are looked at as disgusting or unhygienic. But you don't look at a man and think that they have poor hygiene just because they have leg hair. And so, you know, I think that that is really important as far as critically analyzing, not are we only doing this to, you know, us versus a magazine, we're doing this as like women potentially versus men as far as what those standards are looking like. And I think that body hair is definitely one that should be eradicated and people should practice what they want for their bodies.
Great. I've got another question. Now I lost it. I'm sorry. But oh, what is it? It was the one about society.
Yeah, I have it here.
Do you have it? Okay. Would you like to ask?
Sorry?
Would you like to ask that one? Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think societies give this standard for people to follow?
It was not that one anyway, but anyway.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about
No, it's okay. Anyways, perhaps she can answer that and I can
I mean, if you think about it, it is, okay, so the diet industry is a multi-billion industry. So people make money off of you having self-doubt. Like, so many people make money every single time. This is a thing that I also helped me in my growth and body acceptance, is that I realized that every single time I had a negative thought about my body, somebody else was going to make money off of it. And I don't like the idea of someone making money off of my self-doubt. Like, what kind of an industry does that? That is just so terrible. And thinking about, like, you know what? I'm going to change my thought and I'll buy myself an ice cream because that's what I And so, you know, it's just also recognizing that there's a whole systemic like, that is what the roots are. If this was a tree, like, the roots is truly people profiting and making money off of every single time that you think maybe you have cellulite or you have acne or you have a dimple or that you have a little bit of belly rolls or that you have a lot of belly rolls or that you have like something on your eyebrows, like all
wrinkles.
It contributes to somebody else's pockets. And I think everyone should keep their money for themselves and activities they want to do and to change themselves.
Yeah, like I was thinking those bodies that they sell is like they belong to a number of people that is so small that all of the other people that want to fit in that have to spend a lot of money to get there.
Yes, and even the people who fit it get photoshopped in the advertisements. Yeah. And so, you know, it's critically analyzing those things for sure. Definitely.
Thank you. Martina, Maru has sent me the question. Thank you, Maru. So here it is. In which countries do you consider that society adheres more to beauty standards and why?
So I think that like European fashion almost trickles down to lots of different places. I like lots of countries have their own idealized beauty standards, but European fashion, you know, really has this power because it was fashionable. And so I think that in general is sort of oftentimes where beauty standards can sort of formulate, and then it trickles down to lots of different places and can like shift and change obviously in lots of different places. But I do believe that especially in lots of different countries, that's where it can originate from.
Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question kind of as a wrap up, maybe. I don't know what you think. How many more questions would like to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
I
say,
think the next question to finish off this conversation with, what advice would you give to those who feel self-conscious about their body? Because we're talking about idealistic things. At some point, you must feel insecure in the first, and you need to have someone to help you at first, I think.
Yes, so I fully appreciate this question, and I'm actually going to share my screen really quickly. So there is an organization called, so I am a collaborator with the National Eating Disorder Association of the United States. And so they actually have a few steps here to a positive body image. And so here it says, shut down voices in your head that tell you your body is not right or that you are a bad person. You can overpower those negative thoughts with positive ones. The next time you start to tear yourself down, build yourself back up with a few quick affirmations that work for you. So like I was stating earlier, this is a small example as far as thinking about your hands and affirmations about what your hands and appreciating your hands for all that they do. And, you know, working in that sort of mind. Affirmations don't have to be you looking in the mirror saying like, I am strong, I am powerful, but they can, but affirmations also can just being appreciative of what your body does for you. Another thing is to wear clothes that are comfortable and that make you feel good about your body and work with your body, not against it. Again, this is huge shout out to anybody Argentina for, you know, working towards this and just making sure that, you know, when you're wearing clothes, they're not pinching and hurting you and making you think about your body in a space, because that takes away from you actually being in the space. Become a critical viewer of social and media messages. So pay attention to images, slogans, and attitudes that make you feel bad about yourself or your body. Protest these messages, write a letter to the advertiser, talk back to the image or the message. So this is exactly what we were talking about as far as the advertisement about the Are You Beachbody Ready? The only reason that all those other advertisements came up that were combating that is because thousands of people wrote letters stating like that this was not okay. Thousands of people wrote on Twitter, wrote on Instagram, wrote on Facebook, like this is not okay. How can they be doing this? And so it started to make that shift and make that change. Do something nice for yourself, something that lets your body know you appreciate it. Take a bubble bath, make time for a nap, or find a peaceful place outside to relax. I also would like to add to this, see a mental health counselor. Like there's so many more things that are doing something nice for yourself, and you know, getting a mental health counselor or a therapist is something that I also believe should be normalized. And I know that that conversation is a little bit different in Argentina than it is here, but you know, there's just so many additional components that you can do as far as doing something nice for yourself. It doesn't always need to look like the standard like self-care that you might see on Instagram. Use the time and energy that you might have worrying about food, calories, or your weight to do something to help others. Sometimes reaching out to other people can help you feel better about yourself and can make a positive change in the world. And so those are just like a few. Again, I think that the biggest thing is to work on redefining your own definition of beauty, to be appreciative of your body, and also to be very critical of the images that you receive from the world. And also, you know, you like those influencers that might be promoting body acceptance, but then also promoting diet industries, think critically about those messages and receive them in the best way that you see fit. And also have conversations, talk about this with other people. Like, you know, talking about like different things like stretch marks and acne in a way that isn't demonizing or isn't shameful. It's just an amazing way to start. And what's amazing is that you and your, like this wonderful group of humans can work on just making that shifts in your environment yourselves by rethinking and reutilizing words so that they're not used to hurt other people's bodies or to make comparisons. So it's really about everybody's opportunity to step up within their community to make those shifts.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. There are a few positive comments that we've been receiving. Tere, would you like to take the lead?
Here I can read that some people said, really interesting concept. What an amazing talk. Thanks for sharing your experiences and thoughts with us. This talk should be watched by everyone. Your projects are great. Thanks for answering our questions. So I think that we're all very happy to have you today.
Oh, well, that makes me so happy. I'm so delighted that I could have this conversation with you all. And so thank you so much for including me.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martina. Thanks very much. A most useful talk. I'm sure our students appreciate the very important message that you have put across. Thanks, Marina, Camila, Cecilia, and Teresa for hosting this interesting talk. Thanks to all the Boston College team. And thanks to our students and the rest of the audience for participating so actively and sending such thought-provoking questions. See you all tomorrow at 2 p.m. and over to Ivana.
Thanks, Anna. On behalf of Boston College, I'd like to thank Analia and her wonderful team, and Martina, it's been great to have you here today. You've been a wonderful guest and speaker. If you have not been able to join our live broadcast, I would like to remind you that all the talks we've been having will be posted on our YouTube channel, so feel free to watch us again anytime. As Anna said, see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.